There are moments in history when you have to stop and ask yourself a very real question. What if the things we've been hearing for years were never coincidence? Because my dad, Kim Clement, didn't just speak words that inspired people. He spoke things that came to pass. In 1996, he spoke about a terror attack that would shake America to its core. Years later, the world watched September 11th attacks unfold. In 2002, he said America would have an African-American president long before Barack Obama ever took office. In 2004, he described the final search for Osama bin Laden, even seeing a house with a balcony years before that moment became reality in 2011. In 2006, he warned that Japan would experience a devastating earthquake, and in 2011, the nation was shaken by one of the most powerful earthquakes in modern history. 1 month before Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, he said it was coming. And in 2007, long before politics was even a conversation, he declared that Donald Trump would rise and become a trumpet. Now listen, people hear these things and they're amazed, and they should be. But here's what we cannot do. We cannot separate these fulfilled words from what he said about Israel. Because the same voice, the same prophetic clarity, the same accuracy is the voice that stood and declared Israel is forever. He didn't say it once. He said it again and again and again. And on February 4th, 2012, he spoke this: I speak of Israel, for I say of Israel, I said you are forever. I said you are forever. This nation will surprise their enemies, for they have said they are weak. But God said there is a turn coming. Winds of change are blowing. They will go from weakness to strength, and there will be victory. So today, we're not just looking at prophecy. We're asking a bigger question. If everything else he said came to pass, what does it mean that he said Israel is forever? And what are we watching unfold right now? So thank you for joining us today. Christy Desfontaine is with us as usual. Welcome, Christy.
Thank you.
I would love to hear your thoughts today.
I love that. And when you hear everything that was just laid out for us, the way that Donné did that, it really should stop you in your tracks, because we're not talking about a man who made vague spiritual statements. We are not talking about someone who simply reacted to headlines or spoke in generalities. We are talking about a man who spoke with stunning clarity about events that had not happened yet. And that is exactly why this matters so much, because the same prophetic voice that spoke into those world events kept referring to one nation again and again and again: Israel. Not casually, not politically, not as some passing comment, but with deep conviction, with urgency, with love. Kim Clement did not merely mention Israel. He embraced Israel. He defended Israel. He spoke of Israel as a nation held in the purposes of God. And in a time like this, that matters. Because we are living in an hour when Israel is constantly being accused, constantly being isolated, constantly being twisted in the court of public opinion. And yet Kim stood firm. He did not waver. He did not soften. He did not back away from what he saw. He said something that we believe still matters right now. Israel is forever. That was not just a poetic statement. That was a prophetic declaration. And today we want to show you that Kim's love for Israel was not separate from his prophetic gift. It was part of it. The same man who saw what was coming in America also saw what God was saying about Jerusalem, about Netanyahu, about Israel's enemies, about Israel's preservation, about Israel's future. And that is why this show is so important. Because if people are willing to marvel at the fulfilled prophecies, if they are willing to ask, how did he know that? Then they also need to ask, what should we do with what he said about Israel? And before we walk through some of Kim's most powerful words concerning Israel, we need to deal with something first, because one of the biggest lies in the earth right now is the attempt to paint Israel as the villain. We're told that Israel's committing genocide. We're told that Israel is using excessive force. We're told that Israel alone should be blamed, while the terror, the tunnels, the shields, the rockets, and the strategy of Hamas are ignored. And that is where truth matters. Before we go any further, we need to confront one of the biggest lies being told right now about Israel. Because many people have formed their opinion based on headlines, emotion, and repeated accusations, not on serious military analysis. So before we address the claims of genocide or excessive force, I want you to hear from someone with real authority on this subject. John Spencer is one of the world's leading experts on urban warfare. Since October 7th, 2023, he has made 4 trips to observe the IDF in Gaza, studying both the effectiveness and the morality of their conduct. He served 25 years in the U.S. Army as an infantry soldier and commander, including 2 combat deployments to Iraq. He has advised senior U.S. Army leaders, including 4-star generals. He is the chair of urban warfare studies at West Point, and since October 7th, he has written and spoken extensively about the Israel-Hamas war. This is not a political activist. This is not someone reacting from a distance. This is a battlefield expert speaking from study, experience, and first-hand observation. This video is a little longer than usual, but I want you to watch it carefully, then we're going to come back and we're going to play you some of Kim's really powerful prophecies later on. Let's watch this video now.
Hamas's strategy is not to fight the IDF, but to cause what is historical in Israel's wars for the international community to halt Israel before achieving a victory, even after the horrific crimes of October 7th. So Hamas historically even has been used as an example that I teach in classes of using a human shield strategy where it violates the laws of war and uses protected populations like civilians and protected sites, hospitals, schools, mosques, UN buildings, and uses them for military purposes, trying to use the protections afforded to those buildings or populations so that the attacker cannot attack them and must use other methods and complicates the operations. It's a violation of war, but it's called human shield strategy, where you're putting something in front of you so the enemy can't attack you. Hamas did that and prepared basically every hospital, every school, and used it for military purposes in some way. But Hamas also uses a human sacrifice strategy. Unlike, again, comparing this to even 20th century or World War II, World War I, where Hamas both states and acts that it needs its civilians to die, will put its civilians in harm's way, will not allow civilians into protective tunnels that they use. That's human sacrifice strategy, into where Hamas leaders will say, I need the death of my population, which is a very unique aspect. Generals like General Mark Milley, who was the U.S. Joint Chief of Staff for 2 presidents, said that absolutely the U.S. would have done this differently. We would have used more combat power to try to end it quicker, because that's what you want to do. Fighting protracted, block by block, house by house wars like we've seen is highly destructive and leads to what we've seen, the questioning of the goals, the questioning of the ability to achieve the goals, and now the criticism of the military, like, you could have done it a different way. Absolutely. You could have done it with more force to make the enemy, in this case Hamas, believe that you don't have a chance of winning. And unfortunately, within the political context of this war, many nations have sent Hamas messages, and the United Nations, just hold out. You can win, and we will stop Israel.
Now, what you just heard is so important because it's not the opinion of a random commentator. That is the assessment of a man who has spent his life studying war, who understands urban combat, and who has seen what Israel is dealing with up close. And what did he make clear? Gaza is not a normal battlefield. Hamas embedded itself within civilian infrastructure. Hamas weaponized hospitals, schools, tunnels, neighborhoods, and even its own people. And Israel has been judged by the world, not by the reality of war, but by a false narrative. That matters. Because when people use words like genocide carelessly or accuse Israel of excessive force without context, they are not just making a political statement, they are participating in a lie. A lie that ignores October 7th, a lie that ignores the hostages, a lie that ignores the rockets, a lie that ignores the tunnels, a lie that ignores the human shields, and a lie that demands that Israel defend itself but never actually win. And this is where believers need discernment. Because if you accept a lie about Israel, you will not see Israel clearly. And if you do not see Israel clearly, you may completely miss what God is saying in this hour. This is not just about media bias. This is not just about politics. This is about whether we will stand in truth when truth becomes costly. And that is exactly why Kim Clement's words matter so much. Because Kim did not speak about Israel with hesitation. He did not speak about Israel as though it were just another nation among nations. He spoke of Israel with covenant language, with reverence, with conviction, with love. And again, he returned to the same truth. Israel is forever. And that was not just his opinion. That was what he believed the Spirit of God was saying. So what we want to do now is walk through some of the most powerful prophetic words Kim gave concerning Israel. And as we do, I want you to listen carefully to the consistency, listen to the language, listen to the affection, listen to the certainty, because this was not a side theme for Kim. This was a big part of the message that he carried. So now that you've heard from a real expert on urban warfare and the kind of battlefield Israel is actually facing, let's look at the other side of this conversation, because sadly many people, and even many Christians, have bought into accusations against Israel without ever testing them carefully. So now let's hear what this armchair expert has to say. And when we come back, we're going to take apart the narrative, examine the claims, and look at whether these theories actually hold up under truth. And then we're going to go to these different words that Kim gave concerning Israel. So let's go to this now.
So here we see this map says Israel. And if we zoom out a bit and look at some of these surrounding countries, we see Israel is surrounded by Muslims. There's the Arabian Peninsula, Egypt, Turkey, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan. There are all of these Muslims surrounding a Jewish state. How did that happen? Well, that's because in the middle of all of these Muslim nations existing, within the last century, Jews from outside of this region, Jews from Europe, from America, from all over the world, have been flooding this area. Now, of course, Palestinians were already living there. So the world has watched Israel take land from the Palestinians year after year. And the reality is their goal is not just to exist, but they want to expand to greater Israel, as we see this red border represents. Now, this not only includes Palestine, it includes Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Egypt. But wait a second, how can that happen? Well, one way they've been moving in this direction is because they are backed by the United States.
I have to pause this real quick. This man, the amount of nonsense that just poured forth from his mouth has actually astounded me. He's talking about how in the last century, Jews that came from other places have come back in and they've taken the land where the Palestinians were settled. King David ruled from the city of David 3,000 years ago. The Jews lived in Israel thousands and thousands of years ago, long before Islam ever existed as a nation. He's talking about Israel wanting to take over varying places. Completely untrue, by the way. If you want to know the definitive boundaries of the land of Israel, Numbers chapter 34 lays them out really well. Israel is not expansionist. It's not subjugatory. That's what Islam has done. All of these nations that he's talking about, they're Muslim nations. Yes, because the Muslims came in and conquered them and turned the people from being what they were to being forced into adopting Islam as a way of life and thought and ideology and religion, all face death. Ezekiel 5:5, God says, "Behold, I have placed Jerusalem at the center of the nations." That land was given to Israel by God thousands of years ago, laid out specifically, mapped out. There is nothing expansionist about Israel as a nation. They're still not even fully living in all of the land that was given to them by God. Anyway, let's carry on listening to this man and his nonsense.
A second, but where is the United States? It's all the way on the other side of the globe. Now, American citizens have been increasingly demanding that their government focus on putting America first. We're tired of these wars on the other side of the globe. And let's think about those wars for a moment. If we go back to the state of Israel, if it wants to keep expanding and then taking all this other land in the region for greater Israel, well, one thing they need to do is weaken Iraq.
Okay, he's talking about Greater Israel. Nobody even knows what in the hell that kind of term is. And also he speaks about going back to the formation of the state of Israel. Israel was established officially as a nation, yet again, May the 14th, 1948, and that came about as a response to the Holocaust, where 6 million Jews were killed. And today in 2026, the numbers of Jews are still not what they are globally, what they were in pre-World War II times. Before the Holocaust occurred, that amount of Jews that was in existence then, today in 2026, we still don't have as many Jews on the earth as we did back then, because that's what a genocide looks like. The Palestinian population has gone up by 3.8 times since Israel came in and resettled the land, which was the fulfillment of so many varying prophecies, so many varying scriptures. But listen to the language this guy is using. It's all complete lies. Greater Israel, they're taking over. over. He doesn't mention why 1948 happened. The fact that those wars that occurred was when all of the nations surrounding Israel decided to attack on the same day at the same time with this newly formed state with people that were rising out of the ashes of the Holocaust. Anyway, let's listen to what else he has to say. What a gem this creature is.
Well, how convenient. The U.S. invaded Iraq and essentially destroyed the country under false pretenses. Next to Iraq, we have Iran. For decades, Israel has been trying to get the U.S. to go to war with Iran. Well, what do you know? Donald Trump, who proclaimed we would not start any new wars, has started a new war in Iran. And Marco Rubio.
Again, he's claiming that Donald Trump started a new war in Iran, and he's saying for decades Israel's been trying to get America to go to war with Iran. Before 1979, none of that was happening in the slightest. The Islamic regime came in, took over, and in this very year, 2026, has slaughtered tens of thousands of their own people because they rose up against a regime of subjugation. Let's let him finish.
Rubio slipped up and admitted that this was done ultimately for Israel. Now, what do we find Israel doing? After they heartlessly destroyed Gaza, now they are moving into southern Lebanon. So not only is Israel able to do these things because of U.S. backing, because of the U.S. doing much of its bidding, but also this is why you see so much extreme Islamophobia. Because if you fear all of these Muslims that surround Israel, then you won't care when Israel, for example, carries out a genocide against them, or bombs them, or invades them. In fact, they may even convince you and your children to go and fight wars against these Muslims that they have demonized. So while Muslims are maybe 1% of the US population, and the Muslims by and large live on the other side of the globe in comparison to America, this is just one of the reasons why Americans are constantly bombarded with Islamophobia. So hopefully now many of you can understand why the U.S. is always involved.
This guy, the amount of nonsense that just poured out of his mouth is absolutely, it almost leaves me bereft of speech. Muslims make up 2.4 billion people in the earth. They are so aggressively the largest percentage of any religion. They have taken over so many other nations, and he's talking about Islamophobia and that being what so many people are facing. I mean, what we're dealing with right now, the levels of anti-Semitism are infinitely higher than any kind of level of Islamophobia you can reference. When you go and look at the hate crimes that have been committed, and I'm talking data, 87% of the attacks in the last 4 years have been towards Jewish people in America. Notice how he just leaves out October 7th, doesn't talk about anything that Hamas or Hezbollah or the Houthis or anybody has done. He just breezes over all of that and just spills out filth and nonsense and lies. And this is the thing that we're dealing with. What we've just heard is exactly why this matters, because a lot of people sound convincing. They use these bold claims and emotional language, but it doesn't make them right. Israel is being recast as the villain, and sadly, many people, even Christians, have accepted that narrative. But if you ignore October 7th, the hostages, the rockets, the tunnels, and the covenant, of course, you can twist the story, and this is why the truth matters, because Israel is not just another nation. Israel matters to God, and Kim Clement understood that. Through all of the hatred, pressure, and opposition, he kept returning to the same message: Israel is forever. And as you hear these next rounds of prophetic words, listen to the consistency, the love, and the certainty with which Kim spoke about Israel. This is why I want you to hear this clearly today. He didn't speak about Israel once in passing. He returned to Israel again and again and again. He spoke of Israel with love. He spoke of Israel with conviction. He spoke of Israel as a nation watched over by God, preserved by God, and held in the purposes of God. And when you hear these words together, you begin to understand that this was not a side issue for Kim. It was part of what he carried. Listen to the consistency, affection, and certainty. September 25th, 2011, he prophesied and said, "No one will take you away from me. Not Syria, not Iran, not Russia, not China. Israel is forever. There shall be no end to Israel." June 13th, 2015, "Jerusalem shall never be taken out of the hands of my people, says the Lord." February 3rd, 2011, "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, O Israel, Israel, I shall come and I shall be in the streets of Jerusalem. I shall stand on Zion." June 14, 2014, Kim saying, Israel is forever. I will expose hidden forces that have already planned many other attacks. Your children shall not be touched. April 17th, 2010, Netanyahu, before you were born, I raised you up. You will stand before the people of the United Nations and declare the judgment of the Lord upon Iran. December 13, 2014, Netanyahu, listen to me. You are afraid of what is happening in Iran. Russia has already made a decision. They will never touch Israel. April 23rd, 2015, Israel is amazing. They are fighters. You hear me, Bibi Netanyahu. God has always kept Israel. May 23rd, 2015, the God of Israel is watching you. Am Yisrael Chai. I will shower Israel with blessings. August 26, 2013, have I forgotten you, Jerusalem? Have I forgotten you, Jerusalem? Or have I watched you until this day? Israel, my love, my light. Have I forgotten you, Israel? Have I forgotten you, Israel? Once again, I will gather you under my wings. July 15th, 2006, Israel, Israel, your enemies will never cease. I've gathered you together to show you to the nations. Now, what stands out is not just the boldness of the words, it is how consistent they are. Again and again, Kim says the same things in different ways. Israel will not be abandoned. Jerusalem will not be forgotten. Israel will be preserved. Israel will be defended. Israel is forever. And that is why this matters so much right now. Danae, the last number of years of your dad's life were completely focused on Israel. And when we read, like you did at the beginning, when we just say out all the things that he prophesied, and now we see so many, there's hundreds of references of him prophesying to Israel, but it's completely inarguable that Kim Clement stood with and supported Israel and the Jews and Bibi Netanyahu.
Inarguable. Christy, I've got notes like this after that video.
Yes.
I am so frustrated.
Yes.
I was writing everywhere because you were talking about the Holocaust.
Yes.
And when you referenced that during the video you played. Okay, what I've noticed, the Holocaust denial. Just
Always.
Denying it. Mm-hmm. That is a lot of what was regurgitated by that man in that video is propaganda slop.
Yes.
From World War II that is being regurgitated to a generation who doesn't know any better.
Absolutely.
Who doesn't know the history at all of the world before 1900. I guess nothing happened. And they're forgetting the fact that the Jewish people were a diaspora because they were driven out of their land again and again through history. And they had to go somewhere.
Yes.
And so him saying, oh, well, Jews just came from Europe. No, they didn't just come from Europe. They went back to their homeland, the way it was prophesied in the Bible that it would happen. And we watched that prophecy fulfilled in 1948.
Yes.
And then, like you said, all of the nations around encroached upon that tiny little bit of land, who this man says is expansionist. Let me tell you who's expansionist, and I'm not Islamophobic because I'm not afraid of a single Muslim. I am not afraid of Islam. There's no phobia here. There's no phobia when you are saying what you see with your own eyes.
Yes.
Which is an expansion of Islam that has taken over the Middle East. Afghanistan used to be a Christian country. Turkey used to be a Christian country. What were the Crusades? You know, they educate children on the Crusades, making the Crusaders out to be the bad guy. But what they were doing was trying to push out Muslim invasion, which is expansion, which is the entire goal of the religion. So no, I'm not afraid. There's no Islamophobia here. The expansionists are the Muslims, and right now they're expanding all throughout Europe. And what Dad prophesied was the rise of a Fourth Reich. And that Europe, without America there, and we can see now because of the behavior of Europe, that they would have to fight a short war to overcome Islamic invasion the way they did in the 7th century. That's a direct quote from what my dad prophesied from France, warning Europe, you're going to have to fight a war over this. And you're going to overcome an agreement between Russia and Iran. And so what the enemy's tactic here right now is that, let's look, just like you said, he never said anything about what Hamas and those terrorists did when they got over the border into Israel. The very first thing they did was torture and slaughter innocent people. They cooked babies. I watched a video of them trying to hack a man's head off, and they didn't get it right the first time. And there that poor man was laying, innocent civilian, laying suffering on the ground as they hacked at his throat. We aired that footage, some of it, right after I think it was the week or two following October 7th when it happened. Nobody wants to talk about the atrocities that those monsters committed on innocent Israeli civilians. And he forgets and fails to mention that Israel gave the land back to Gaza, gave them land, removed their dead from graves so that the people of Gaza wouldn't have those bodies there to desecrate. And so, unfortunately, the propaganda war that we are in right now is having a terrible effect on Christians. And you know what? Dad prophesied that would happen too. They're calling it Chrislam, but Dad prophesied about how Christians would stand in a very strange way with Islam. And then Dad prophesied they're even going to ask for Sharia law. That's what Dad prophesied. They're going to say maybe we should have Sharia law. Guess who's on the news this week or in the past couple of weeks? Tucker Carlson. Oh, the countries with Sharia law, they're so much more advanced. When he's in a bubble, because he's a really rich, spoiled guy who has never had any real life experience. And so when he goes and visits these countries, the people make sure they take him to the nicest places. I mean, I remember him going to Moscow, and at the time, I actually didn't even have a problem with that. I thought, okay, let him go talk to Putin. But you know what? He went to Moscow, and there he stood in Moscow and said, oh, well, the train station here is better than everything we have in America. And you know what? It's traitorous, treasonous, and disgusting the way that some of these people are behaving. And you know what? Even if we didn't know what we know in the Bible, you can look at this situation and see how unfair it is. There's a reason Dad prophesied about the UN. There's a reason that God, through my dad, said that the UN is a stench to God's nostrils because they will never, ever stand on the side of Israel. And we also found out that members of the UN were in there with Hamas, helping to slaughter innocent Israeli civilians across that border on October 7th. So I'm sorry, Christy, but this is the thing that we keep seeing, because the way that they present the information is by omission. The lie is the omission. So what he did was he listed some information to you and omitted very important parts of it.
Yes.
So that your view would be, oh, I better not be Islamophobic. Those evil Jews, there's this tiny little bit of land like this. I mean, you can't even barely see it on the map. And then the Muslim countries around that didn't used to be Muslim because they expanded, and they're still expanding. And now the goal is to infiltrate America from within, which they are openly doing. You can scroll through social media and find a video of one of them somewhere, usually in Michigan somewhere, is some imam who's an American with an American accent talking about how they're going to infiltrate. And then you get the ones that have come and immigrated, and they're saying the same thing.
Yes, it's the
Oh, don't
same
worry.
message.
You go ahead and have your abortions. Have your abortions. It's fine, because we're going to have 10 kids, and in a generation we'll outvote you. We're already seeing it in New York with Mom Donnie, of all places in the world. How long has it been since 9/11? You've already got Mom Donnie as the mayor of New York. Mm-hmm. That should tell you that the Islamic invasion is happening.
Yes.
And there's a reason God sent a prophet in my father to be a voice. Like, I never thought it would end up this way, but it's like my father's voice prophesying.
Yes.
It's like this lone voice in a wilderness right now.
Yes.
And people who I never thought would turn their back on Israel
And they are.
have done it.
Yes.
And I can see that it is demonic, and it is unfair, and the only one that's going to be able to fix this is God, Christy.
Yes, no, it's
God
true.
and God in us and through us.
Yes.
And so anybody, we're certainly not tickling ears here at the House of Destiny Network, because it was abundantly clear what my dad prophesied about Israel. And none of it had anything to say. I mean, none of those prophecies had anything to say about the Jews secretly control the world and they're trying to expand. That is a lie that is coming from Islamic propagandists. Islamic propagandists who are working with Russian propagandists because they have a different goal for globalism. You know, we really focused a lot on the European globalists with the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization. That's one bloc that wants control of the globe. There's another bloc that wants a control of the globe. They've been known as BRICS, but it's Russia and China and Iran in particular, along with North Korea and South Africa, maybe some others, but they're the main ones. And the Islamists and the Russians are really good at propaganda, and right now they're winning that propaganda war in the West, which is to the detriment of the West. And so people can try to pretend that Bibi Netanyahu tricked them, or I don't know what they think he did, but none of those people were there in that room having that discussion. It's a bunch of mouths talking. And a lot of those mouths make money off of doing that right now. They're making money off of it. And that's another big problem that's going on, is that, oh, well, this is what's popular. This is what's getting views. So that's the direction they're going to go, because they're in it to make money and they don't care. So a lot of the voices you're hearing, that's what's going on. Also, people who don't truly understand the Bible, or those who believe that all of prophecy has already been fulfilled. I don't know how they...
I know.
What they think is going to happen with Jesus returning. I often run into blockades, and it's so difficult to speak to them because they just start screaming at you that you're going to go to hell. And so we're in a very hostile and difficult environment right now. And I can say I've never been more grateful for my dad's prophecies, because this is an environment that it's thick with deception. It's a fog.
Yes.
And the only thing that is clear for us right now is that, Dad, like you said, it wasn't just one or two things he prophesied about Israel. It was repeated and over again and passionately. And so that also doesn't mean we can't criticize the Israeli government if we don't like something. Just like we criticize the American government if we don't like something. But what you'll notice is it's a strange thing that happens. And it doesn't just end there. It doesn't just, well, I don't like this policy, or I don't like this leader. It ends with the Jews secretly control the world. And everything that ever goes wrong is the fault of the Jews. And it always goes that direction. And so if it were just a simple critique or criticism or something you don't like about the way in which the government is run, that's one thing, but that's not what's happening. What's happening here is actually demonic. And Christy, we know where it goes all the way back to. It goes all the way back to old Haman.
It does.
And think of the territory we're in. We're in the territory in which we are at war is that same territory that Haman was in, that Esther was in. Yes. King Cyrus, the whole thing. The fact that we are at war in that region right now should be very telling to you.
Yes.
as far as spiritually what is going on here. Mm-hmm. So that's my 2 cents.
No, which I
had to explode because I was holding it in.
Yes, and I understand that, and it's personal for all of us, because this is not just about watching a broadcast. It's not just about hearing prophecy. It's not just about looking at what is happening in the world. This is about how we respond. When you hear what Kim carried about Israel, and when you see how boldly he returned to this again and again, it should do something in us. It should move us to pray. It should move us to stand in truth, and it should move us to ask God to keep our hearts aligned with his heart. Psalm 122:6 says, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May those who love you prosper. That verse matters because we're living in a time when truth is being twisted, when good is being called evil, and when many people are being pressured to step back from Israel. But as believers, we are called to be people of discernment. We're called to love what God loves. We're called to pray for what God tells us to pray for. And we're called to stand firm when the pressure says compromise. So before we do anything else, I really do want to just take a moment right now. We're going to wrap up any moment and pray. So Lord, we do pray today for the peace of Jerusalem. We pray for the protection of Israel. We pray for the innocent. We pray for those who are grieving, those who are fearful, those who are standing in the middle of conflict. We ask for truth to be honored in an hour of deception. We pray that you would make your will known to us. I pray that you would protect us from false narratives, from lies that are being spread, from ideologies that are demonic, and that you would keep your elect preserved even in these times. I pray that you would give us hearts that are aligned with yours, that you would give us eyes to see clearly, and we pray this in Jesus' name. And as we continue, I want to say this very clearly. What you're seeing here today matters. House of Destiny is committed to speaking truth and to keeping the prophetic voice of Kim Clements alive, and to continuing to stand where so many others are afraid to stand. It takes courage, it takes obedience, and it takes support. Genesis 12:3 is very clear. It says, I will bless those who bless you. It's not just history, it's covenant language. And in a time when so many are pulling away from Israel, I believe this is a moment to draw near to what matters to God. That's not a small statement. That is God revealing his heart and his covenant. So when we stand with Israel, when we pray for Israel, and when we refuse to back away from truth, we are not just responding politically. We are choosing alignment with what matters to God. So if this ministry has helped you strengthen your faith, if it has helped you to see it clearly, if it has helped you to stay grounded in truth during a confusing time, I want to invite you to give today. Your giving helps us continue to proclaim the truth, continue these broadcasts, preserve what Kim Clements' prophetic words mean, and to reach people with the gift of hope, clarity, and faith. That's what the message is. That's what the gift is. So you can text the word gift to 43965 or click the red link We thank you for praying with us. We thank you for standing with Israel, and we thank you for standing with the House of Destiny. Now, Donna, I know there's more that we're going to go into in the partner segment, but we're out of time for today. But the thing that we really wanted to focus on was your dad's love for Israel and how it was not a side issue. This was a very real big part of what he carried prophetically.
Yes, and some of the most powerful prophetic moments with my dad were when he went to Israel.
Yes.
And God sent him there. You know, he wasn't a big Israel person, you know, growing up and stuff. You know, he acknowledged the Jewish people in Israel. But I say that because there came a time where God began to reveal to him things about Israel and the Jewish people that he'd never really ventured into those areas before. And once he went to Israel and prophesied from there, and once he spent some time with your mom, Christy, there was
a shift.
It was incredible because the shift that happened opened things up prophetically for him. That because of that, the way that prophecy flowed out of him from then has been so remarkably accurate. His prophecies have carried us so far through the last 10 years where he hasn't even been alive. And much of that was centered around Israel and what God was going to do with Israel and the United States of America at the same time. To do what? To overcome the beast of the East, the prince of Persia. And we are now at war there with that. So it's not only just about supporting Israel. This goes back all the way to when God first sent my father to the United States of America to be a voice, to be a prophetic voice. For what? For this moment, that we might not be deceived. This is the reason God needed to raise up the warriors of the new millennium. God revealed that to my dad in the mid-90s, before he even prophesied 9/11. God had shown him the warriors of the new millennium who would overcome and have victory against the beast of the East. Who is the beast of the East? The Islamists, the Iranian regime, and the communists in Russia and China. That's who you need to be worrying about. Not the Jewish people who are trying to defend themselves, who live under a barrage of rockets and missiles for decades now. That everybody that lives in Israel has to have a bomb shelter just to survive. So you can say, oh, well, they wanted us to, yes, they did want us to help. Israel did want America to help. That is what they would ask. Because they've been alone, this tiny little place in the Middle East. So many rockets that they had to invent the Iron Dome to try to keep themselves safe. And if they defend themselves, they are painted as the bad guy. If you are listening to me today, and you are a logical human being, I beg of you to consider that. Maybe you don't believe in the Bible. Maybe you have a different belief about prophecy. But you cannot deny that that is the situation. And the enemies of Israel and your enemies are pointing your eyes in that direction, so you're not paying attention to the giants that are coming that will destroy the entire West. That everything you see happening in the Middle East will end up happening here, because Israel is the little Satan. We are the great Satan. And if the Iranian regime can stick a nuclear warhead on a missile that can reach Europe and maybe us, Israel is just their first. Then they're coming for us. And Donald Trump and Marco Rubio and that administration understand that. And when they realized the capacity of weapons that the Iranian regime had, that if they didn't do something now, they wouldn't be able to stop them later. And then the Iranian regime, who does want to expand, who is expanding, will expand as they openly state, it's in the constitution of their country, to expand to the entire world so that everybody is a Muslim. And if you're not, you die. You're an infidel. They'll chop your head off. And there can be not a drop of Jewish blood left on the earth. That's what from the river to the sea means. It isn't some kind of liberation movement for the Palestinian people. From the rivers to the sea means all the Jews must be driven from the Jordan River into the Mediterranean Sea to be no more, so that there's not a drop of Jewish blood left on the earth. That is the goal of the Iranian regime. So if you believe that, unfortunately, you are on the side of your own enemy, unless you intend to convert to Islam and live under Sharia law. Because that is the future that the people trying to make nuclear weapons right now, that's the future they have for you. That's what they have planned for you. And we're not gaslighting you. This is the reason. Now, all the people opposed to Trump are not going to bring that up to you. They're going to make up a bunch of little stories. They don't know anything for fact. But many of them, unfortunately, believe that we now need to move into a different kind of structure in the world, and we should be multipolar. That's what Dugin's going on about. Dugin working with Putin and Russia and the Iranian regime. That is the enemy my dad saw. When he stood in Paris and he stood in the Netherlands in 2010, 2012, he sent me there. Stood there and said, there's a Fourth Reich coming. And Europe, he listed the countries, England, France, Germany, Poland, the Netherlands, will have to fight a short war to overcome what? An agreement between Russia and Iran. So because we know these things were prophesied, it makes it easier for us along this path. And I know that we get very passionate about this, but you know what? I get very upset because it's very unfair. Forget everything else. You can even forget my dad's prophecies for a minute. If you just look at that situation honestly, you'll see how grossly unfair it is. But people have been deceived. And so, again, we're not tickling ears here. We have to tell you what was prophesied, whether you like it or not. Whether we gain or lose followers from it or not, we're going to do the right thing. We're going to tell you the truth. We're going to tell you what's going on here. And we have the benefit of prophecy. So I ask everybody watching today, get on your knees and pray and ask God to show you himself. Don't trust us. Go and ask God yourself and ask him to reveal to you what the truth is. And if you are honest, you will see what we're seeing and you will understand. And so that is what I wanted to share today. Now, Christy and I are going to do a partner segment.
We are indeed.
Because we are like way out of time now.
We're way out of time in this partner
but Christy and I are going to...
Sorry, Donna, I just... it's really...
Go ahead, Christy. I'd rather you tell them.
This is an exciting thing because we're going to look at Kim's last broadcast and a particular thing that he prophesied and prayed, and we're going to look at how President Trump prayed the exact scripture that Kim was using, and it's really special. But we're going to do that because we're out of time for the partners only. So I really want to encourage you. There's an incredible correlation here. If you haven't yet, make sure you join us in the Partner Vault. If you are a partner, we'll see you there. And if you're not, you can join us for $7 a month or more. And we have a lot of extra content in there. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there that this is an important and really faith-building segment that we're going to do for the partners.
It is. It is, and you know what? I'll tell you why. Because oftentimes Dad's prophecies, it's like a big statement, and then there's a fulfillment. But there are a lot of little beautiful prophetic things that sometimes get missed, that are woven into the tapestry of the picture that God has prophetically painted for us. And so Christy and I are going to have a look at that, and it is all connected to when Donald Trump read from the Bible, the verse that he chose to read is the exact verse Dad quoted in prophecy the very last time he prophesied. So Christy and I are going to have a look at that, but you got to partner with us to do that because we are out of time over here today. And so if you're a partner, jump over there, join us. If you are not a partner, the information is there as Christy described to you, and we encourage you to join us. It's only $7 or more a month. And so I would say it's worth it. You've got an upgraded prophecy database. The School of the Prophets is available to you, and much, much more. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, Christy, and we will see you next week. Hello, friends. I'm Donna Clement Petrushka, and I am honored to invite you to something truly extraordinary, the Kim Clement Prophecy Vault. Now you can gain unprecedented access to my father's entire digitized video archive. Every prophetic moment, every powerful teaching, every anointed worship session is now available to you in the Prophecy Vault. Plus, I'm excited to share that my dad's special School of the Prophets teachings are included, offering you deep, transformative lessons on hearing God's voice and understanding his revelations. Your partnership is crucial. Not only will you gain access to these incredible resources, but you'll also help us continue the vital work of preserving, digitizing, and adding new Kim Clement material to the archives. I'm inviting you to step into the Kim Clement Prophecy Vault. Let's embark on this journey of revelation together, and I can't wait to see you inside. We have Andrew Sorcini from Beverly Hills Precious Metals with us today. Someone has a 401k. Can they take some of that and purchase gold as an investment for their future?
They can, and it's a great way to do it, because if you have an IRA, a government TSP account, a 401k from a company that you used to work at but don't work at anymore, or if you still work at the company and you're over 59 and a half, these can be rolled over into a precious metals IRA. And if you were to speak to your financial advisor about it, they'll tell you, oh, this is a taxable event. They'll tell you things like gold and silver are volatile. But really, the thing is, they don't want you to get into precious metals because it doesn't benefit them monetarily. I'm here to tell you that your accounts can be rolled into a precious metals IRA without it being a taxable event. You would own real gold and silver that is stored in a third-party depository that's insured in a lockbox with your name on it.
So if someone goes to bh-pm.com, is that the correct website? Okay, and that's going to be on the bottom of the screen. If they go there today, what do they need to do?
Okay, so there's an online form there, and the form, almost every page on the website has the online form. So you just fill in your first name, last name, email address, telephone number, say that Kim Clement sent you, or the House of Destiny. We'll know what you mean. And in the notes section, be as detailed as you can. Sometimes people put things in there like, I'm a complete novice. I really don't understand precious metals. I've been wanting to understand. I want to invest, but really I need more information first. Then put that in there. If you're someone that's been investing in gold and silver for years and really don't need a consultation, you just want to check prices, then put that in there.
Everybody watching, if you are interested in precious metals, this is where you want to go. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Andrew.